Well, good evening. It's Saturday, December the 16th, 2017. Welcome to the Keeping It Real Ya Ministries page here on YouTube and live broadcast to YouTube. And of course, we're also sharing this with our Facebook page where you can like us and follow us there. My name is Scott R. Jones, and I am I guess, for lack of a better word, the administrator of this page, but also I'm also the author of a book that came out a couple years ago called When the Stars Are Right Towards an Authentic Relayan Spirituality. And for those of you who've read the book, you know what it's about. For those of you who've joined and liked the Keeping It Real Ministries Facebook page, maybe you're starting to get some inkling as to what it's about. For those of you who have been playing the Keeping It Real art game on the Keeping It Real art page on Facebook, maybe less of an idea. But I digress. It is late, and as you can tell, I've been fighting a cold for some time. Uh, I just wanted to talk tonight about the season. It can be a rough time for a lot of people, and rightly so. It seems to bring up a number of family issues, issues of belonging, issues of community. Uh, it tends to be a time when people, how to put it exactly, it's an eternal time. The whole solstice season, no matter how you celebrate it, due to the maybe it's the nature of the time of the solstice itself, of just how Christmas and the various other celebrations have always been part of sort of a stepping back from the world and a reassessment of the core things that we value as the human species. Uh, for that reason, for those of us for those of us who have had difficulties getting to that sort of place where we can feel good about those values, it can be a hard time. You're dealing with things like family, you're dealing with money stresses, you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with. It tends to get ramped up over Christmas. And the reason I'm doing this live video is, just as a side point, we'll take a little sidebar here. The reason I'm doing a live video is every time I started to do a recorded video, I would always find something wrong with it. I would find, some reason for me not to post it. Clearly I was experiencing some anxiety over that. So I decided just to go for broke, basically, and do the live recordings instead. So as to just keep it real, yeah, and make it be what it's supposed to be. Um, and I didn't want to start off with these ministry videos as I didn't want to start off personally. A lot of the ethos of the relay and the spiritual view is transpersonal, transhuman. Um, it's a pushing beyond the limits of what we set ourselves, both individually and as a species. And I didn't want to start personally, but I find that because of because of the season and because of the time and because of the things that I have in my life that also ramp up around this time. Um, it just seems the way to go. So we're about to get fairly personal here. My mother died, Claudia Jean Jones, née Robertson, died 16 years ago around this time. And my family, of course, felt that loss quite keenly. My mother was she was kind of the pin that held the whole Jones enterprise together. And when she left us, it was everything just kind of went. We all just flew apart. Uh, and there's a lot of really painful material attached to her death, attached to the ways my family dealt with it, and of course, there's all kinds of oddness surrounding um, that to begin with. I never really had Christmas as a child, and well into my young adulthood, because my family, both the core family and extended family, and extended church family, were all in a fairly well, I can give you three guesses as to who they are, but you'll only need one. But it's essentially a fundamentalist, fringe proto-Baptist American group who basically eschewed the holidays in all their forms. So for the longest time, I never actually experienced Christmas. So I don't have a lot of you know nostalgia for it, because how can you be nostalgic for something you never actually had? When my mother was dying, when she was in hospice, the last time I spoke with her, of course, I'd been speaking with her pretty much every day while she was on her way out. And previous to speaking with her, depending on how she was feeling at the time, I would speak with the doctors, and they would almost universally say she's doing great. She's got lots of time ahead of her. The, obviously the prognosis is not good. She is dying, but she's taken her time. And my father would echo this. My father would say the same thing. But the last time I spoke with her, I could hear it. I could hear it in her voice. There was something. She had made a decision, and there was something changed in the tone. I mean, she was on morphine pretty much all the time, so what can you say about tone? But nevertheless, I was her firstborn. I don't know if that makes any difference. Certainly, my siblings have no similar experience to share. But I knew. I lived an entire province away. She was in Victoria, where I am now, and I was living in Calgary at the time with a girlfriend. And after I got off the phone, well, before I got off the phone, I told my mom I'm on my way. And then I spoke with my father, just to tell him what I was doing. He says, "Oh no, you don't have to come, son. Stay. Enjoy your worldly holiday of Christmas as you're living in sin." He didn't say that exactly, but it's all implied. It's all in there. Uh, but I knew I had to go, so I got in my car, and I left that night, and I drove all night. And long story short, I didn't actually make it in time, and I'll always be processing the strangeness of the moment when she died, because I was about 10 clicks west of Salmon Arm. I was about another 300-400 kilometers to go, and a ferry ride to get to Victoria to see her. So I was a long way away, but I knew when it happened. I got immediately violently ill. I had to stop the car. I practically fell out of the vehicle, and emptied my guts out on the side of the winter road, and got back in the car, tried to recollect myself. But, that was clearly something profound had occurred. 5 minutes later, I get the call from a cousin saying she's gone. And, well, she didn't actually even say it. I picked up the phone. I pulled over, I picked up the phone. And it was my cousin, and I said, "She's gone, isn't she?" And my cousin was somewhat shocked to hear it, but so I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what that entails. I can't, I can't I can't speak to what it means, and I probably will always wonder. But in thinking about my mother and the life that she led, uh, and in thinking about that decision, which I do believe she made. I mean, there's some folks who think, oh, you get cancer because your body needs novelty. Your body needs it's life trying to just bust out all over in an attempt to make changes. There's been some fantastic fiction. I'm sure there's been fantastic weird fiction that's been written um, to that end. Cody Goodfellow, I'm looking in your direction. That whole Radiant Dawn series, yeah, cancer as an evolutionary pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, basically becoming a species of one. But again, I digress. You're going to find I do this a lot. Uh, if I keep this up. So she died, and I thought about, as we dealt with all the repercussions and ramifications and vast alterations to how we functioned as individuals and as a family, and the general take on it is that we don't really function very well as a family without her, and it's a source of sorrow for me uh, pretty much every day, particularly around this time of year. Obviously, I miss my mom. It never goes away. But I think about her life, and I think about what I heard in her voice, and I think about the compassion that she had, and the horror that she felt for the world and how it functioned, and not just the outside world beyond her church, the church that I left, but also within that system of belief, the fact that all things were broken. There's no room. There's no room at the inn. Uh, that it had never functioned well, and possibly never would. And the kind of guilt about that she went through during her life. And at the end of the day, I think my mother just wanted to get out. She just wanted to leave. And and in a lot of ways, I believe she wanted to leave the church she was in, but she was trapped there for awful patriarchal reasons. Uh, I think that I'm a lot like her, that I too have felt, trapped and contained. And Philip K. Dick's concept of the black iron prison, resonates with me uh, very deeply. And I hope nobody minds, but I'm just going to tell my cat to stop messing around in the back. Paul, it hears, but it does not listen. Um, where was I? She just wanted to get out. And I think that's for those of us who suffer from, say, seasonal depression, or like myself, actual depression. Uh, this can be a hard time. This can be a hard time. Uh, And I think we have all felt that need to escape. And I think in a lot of ways it often translates into to suicide, and that's thoughts of suicide and suicidal thoughts and ideations. And I can't say that I've been exempt from that either. This week has been particularly hard, uh, and I'm not looking for sympathy at all. It's something I've learned to deal with over the years, with various meditations and medications and lots of other Asians. Uh, and again, I'm digressing. I promise we won't do this as much in future broadcasts. But essentially, it's that need to get out. I think informs so much of human endeavor. We attempt it with the sciences. We play at it with our religions. We make concrete efforts to transcend our condition with art, with creation of music and writing and painting and sculpture, free form dance. I don't know, what have you. I'm a writer myself, so I recognize that drive, that need to get out. All of these methods, though, I think, particularly the ones that are the most popular, uh, and the ones that I've seen with the most negative effects in the world as a whole, are essentially reductive. You escape by removing aspects of your existence. You it's a narrowing of focus. It's a narrowing of identity. It's a narrowing of belief. It's basically just comes down to a tighter and tighter and tighter peephole through which to view reality. And there's something to be said for that. It certainly provides a certain degree of simplicity, but it also allows for atrocity. It allows for a profound unfairness, and it doesn't heal anything in the world. Oh, that cat. Paul, stop. And she stops for 2 seconds. And people have asked me, well, why then craft some joke religion, something that started off as a gag? Why write? Why write when the stars are right towards an authentic relay in spirituality? Where is that supposed to go, Scott? And for the longest time, I didn't know. Granted, it did start off as a gag, but as I wrote in the afterword to the book, it's something where the more I thought about it, and the more I researched it, and the more I drew parallels between the fiction of you know that horrible old racist Lovecraft and something that went beyond Lovecraft. Something that went into sort of a profound transpersonal and transhuman state. And I've only recently realized that a lot of the reason I was doing it is to provide an escape route that is not limiting. Because I think once you begin to limit what you experience, when you begin to limit who and what you are and how that is expressed in the world, I think once you start doing that, then you're on the road to you're on the road to destruction. Lovecraft in The Call of Cthulhu, in that famous opening paragraph said, we shall, when we've correlated all our contents of human knowledge and we've, moved, into the black seas of infinity beyond, it's going to be so maddening that we're all just going to, flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. He just had this profound and almost pathological nostalgia, this nostalgic yearning of Lovecraft's, which, you know, damned if we're not seeing that today, in terms of, the political and social upheavals. This need to go back to a past that never actually existed, that was, extremely flawed and dangerous. And but gosh, it sure looks sunny back there, and it's just, it sure looks pleasantly dark back there. We can hide, and I think the time for hiding is over. So I'm doing this for mom. It's a path that I'm on, and it's in many ways a path that I can't see very much of as I move ahead. It's not it's not a clear path, or a well mapped one. We're basically just going ahead by inches here. Uh, but relay in thought, as I conceive of it, relay in spirituality, as I envision it, is about a forward escape, not backwards into smaller and tighter and stiffer iterations of ourselves. We must become multiform, many and multiform, and adaptable, uh, you know, thoroughly malleable. We must fit between the cracks of the future that is bearing down on us every second. Every second it's coming. At some point in the future, on a very specific date, an actual date on a future calendar, we're going to find ourselves in the unimaginable. We don't know what's beyond that moment. There's either going to be nothing, entirely probable, that once we finally, shuffle off the coil, that's it. Everything shuts down. We'll get, what are they saying now? The brain functions for about 10, 15 minutes of, activity. I think that new study out of the UK said that, it's basically a small eternity as, the electrochemical, system shut down in the old noggin. That might be, as close to an eternity in whatever state we find ourselves in as we can get. But at the end of that, it's done. And, but even that's unimaginable. You can't imagine the cessation of yourself. Or it'll be some other thing, which you also can't imagine. I mean, the imaginings that we do have about that point after which we can have no knowledge, our speculations about that are entirely, limited fairy stories. I'm the first to admit it. You know, limited fairy stories that speak to the ego of the individual. Basically, they say you'll survive. You specifically, because you're so special, you're gonna make it. Everybody else, who knows what happened to them? They're probably dead. But you, yeah, you'll make it. And it's such a profound and destructive lie. So when I look at Keeping It Real Yeah Ministries, when I look at what I've written and what I'm trying to put out into the world, I think that yeah, it is for, I'm doing this for my mom, for my son, my daughter, because there's so much to fear going ahead, provided we limit, what we are and how we experience. And so much to look forward to and get excited about if we truly do, correlate all the contents of our minds and really, engage with reality in a way that doesn't shy back, that doesn't falter at the brink of revelation, even if that revelation is, even if it is the deadly light, at least it's still light. At least there's still a truth to it. And I'm going to kill that cat. Not really. She's lovely. So this is what I've been thinking about. And I hope you'll join me. I'm going to try to, in future videos, I'll be speaking about, specific ways that Relayan spirituality can be applied to a life. I'd be interested in taking questions from folks on the Facebook page, or here in the comments on the YouTube page here at Keeping It Real Yeah Ministries. And if you haven't read the book, When the Stars Are Right, Towards an Authentic Relayan Spirituality by me, I encourage you to pick up a print or an electronic copy. And you can even contact me via the Facebook page, and I'd be happy to give out free electronic copies. Honestly, it's uh, it's just code and light. Why anybody should pay for that is quite beyond me. But well, we all's got to get paid, is what I'm told by the man who sang the song. So thanks for joining me. Promise it won't be quite so personal next time. And I hope you all have an excellent rest of your weekend. It's the final week leading up to Christmas. And when that day does arrive, I hope you are able to, truly inhabit the sacred nature of the time. However you celebrate it, it is a time outside of time, and therefore, outside of, in a way, outside of what we are. I think that's truly magic, and something I've something I've come to really cherish and appreciate. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that humbug. I've been your host, Scott Jones, Scott R. Jones, and have a great night. Thank you.